The following is a Claibs online production. Lunch with Claibs and Joe on claibsonline.com.
And a good Monday afternoon to you. Welcome on into Lunch with Claibs and Joe here on claibsonline.com, our Facebook and Twitter pages. I'm Joe Roderick, joined alongside by Mike Claiborne. What's going on, Claibs?
It's all good, Joe. Another week in front of us, a whole lot of stuff going on, and I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. You have more baseball tonight, and we'll get into that weekend. As I want to mention, we're powered by Ameren, Illinois, and driven by Mungenast St. Louis Acura. We might be at one of the Mungenast stores next week, but I think a lot of that depends on the Cardinals season and where and what they're doing come next Monday, as they kind of separated themselves a little bit. As we're in the final week of the season. It doesn't really seem that. It seems weird to say that because it seems like it just started a week ago.
Well, yeah and no. It seems like it started a week ago because we've been playing at a breakneck pace. But, you know, this thing has been kind of dragging on now, even though it's a truncated season. But here we are. And I'm of the firm belief that we're going to be playing baseball on Monday, one way or the other, unless the Cardinals do something devastating to hurt their own chances. I don't think Cincinnati or Milwaukee are going to go away. They'd have to really have a nosedive also for them, the Cardinals, to have a 3-game lead over those two before the end of the week. So just be ready for some more baseball, and we'll finish up on Monday. But here's a question for you. If you play a doubleheader and you're scheduled to play a doubleheader, but you can win the first game and not have to play the second game, I don't know how that's going to work, because you would play one less game, but I guess you would have decided your own fate by then. So there's so many scenarios that are going to be in play this week that I just think we just have to just kind of take them as they go.
Wouldn't you? I mean, baseball wouldn't make them play that second game, right?
I wouldn't think so. I wouldn't think so. I mean, it would have no meaning.
Right.
So yeah,
there's
I
no
don't
reason
think
to waste. I mean, the arms that we have, there's no reason to throw them out there. And if anything, I mean, I think the Cardinals would also be smart enough to just say, you know what, if they're going to force us to play, we forfeit.
Forfeit. I agree with you. I agree. Yeah. So, and it's not like you're cheating the fans or anything because they're not there. You're not making any money off concessions. So let's just keep it moving and move on to the next round.
Can you take me into the broadcaster's mindset? You're there. You have to watch all these games. You have to follow along. You know, me sitting at home on a Sunday like yesterday, I could see that there being no hit, that the offense didn't show up. I could switch it over to football. I could switch it over to golf. But you're there. You're calling the game. This offense and the way that it has struggled this year, how frustrating has that been to watch as someone that's covering the team as close as you are?
You know, that's a great question. It's maybe as frustrating as anything I've seen since the 1986 season when the Cardinals were so bad that they wouldn't even put their batting averages on the scoreboard.
Oof.
I'm serious. Whitey got tired of looking at it. I mean, they had some guys who were just dreadful, and they wouldn't put the batting averages on the scoreboard. Really? This is frustrating for sure. And, it's not just one guy. I mean, everybody's had their moment.
Yeah.
But I think when you get past the third place hitter, excluding Yachty, because I think Yachty has that ability to do something, you look at the rest of them and just say, well, here we go. And it feels like you're just giving away outs. And it's been real frustrating. And I don't know how you get better between now and the end of the week.
I know you have a special relationship with Yachty from covering him for this long. Polo also has a special relationship with Yachty, working with his brother and being able to get close to a lot of the Latino players in the locker room. Polo has been on this kick for the last week, 10 days now, when we're doing the show, when we're doing the game preview, of saying that we don't really deserve Yachty at this point, that he doesn't. I think what he's trying to say is that maybe we don't realize just how special of a player he is, knowing that we very well could be watching the last week of his career. And I don't think so. I don't think that's the case, but at some point, I think Cardinal fans have to realize that there's going to be life without Yachty, and what he's done not only on the field, but what he's done in the physical state that he's been in these past few games is really something special.
No, it is. And I think people who watch the game appreciate Yachty. I don't think anybody's disrespected him. Yachty will maybe have a statue out in front of the ballpark at some point. I'm not sure what else someone can do to show appreciation. I mean, he is the most popular player on this team. I think it's unfortunate that he didn't get more help, if that's what he means, because, your outfield has just been a disappointment, offensively. And, that's a tough situation because, for a guy like Yachty, you want to give him a chance to win one more time. And I'm not sure if that's been afforded to him with the current roster setup that we have. I mean, you're in a couple of bad contracts that you can't get out of. You've probably amped up a couple of guys as far as their skill set that they haven't lived up to the expectation. And, obviously COVID has had a real big bite out of what's going on also. But, when it's all said and done, anybody who's watched Cardinal baseball knows how important Yachty or Molina is to this ball club and to this organization and to this city, for that matter. I mean, he's on that Mount Rushmore as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I was thinking about this earlier. Looking back at the way maybe a Jorge Posada was kind of viewed in New York, how he was just, he was put on that pedestal and it was Posada and Jeter and Rivera there for so long. And knowing the numbers that Yachty has put up over his career, where, what that would look like if he played in a market like in New York.
Yeah, that's a good point. And the fact that Posada was even mentioned in that light is because the Yankees kept good players around him. That hasn't been the same to be said for the Cardinals. And you're right. I think if Yachty was in that environment, yeah, he probably would put up equal numbers, if not better. But there was more consistency. The only consistency that we've seen with Yachty and the Cardinals is Waino. I mean, when you look around, we've changed positions in so many different areas. I guess Matt Carpenter's been ineffective for the last 5 years. So you don't really have that to hang your hat on. So it's just been a kind of a ships passing in the night, more or less, than that he hasn't had more consistency with regard to success.
Yeah, you mentioned the statue outside of Busch, and I know it seems like we're talking like this is his final week. I don't think that. I do not think that this is Yachty's final week, regular season with the Cardinals. Not at all. But I think that when you talk statues, because that is a conversation that gets brought up a lot. I think that
Frank's the only one that brings up this whole statue thing. I just use that because Frank likes to use it.
I think it needs to be a statue of Yachty and Wainwright together. I think that's.
I think when it's all said and done, we will see something like that. But in fairness, they both deserve one on their own.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. It's just they are kind of connected, and I think always.
Well, they're only connected because they survived. But Yachty has, Yachty and Waino work once a week, and Yachty's trying to save the rest of the world the other days of the week. So that's why I think they should have separate statues. Listen to me, I really sound like Frank now. I'm already.
As he did yesterday, we saw, my guy. You talk about the frustration with the team and the offense. Sunday, it was the 2-run home run by Yachty that won it. The day before that, it was the 5-run inning, just one inning. And this is a team that is just not doing anything for 8 innings, and then coming on and doing. And if they're going to go anywhere in the postseason, if they're going to make it. God, if they're going to make it to that third game of the best of 3 in the first round, wherever it is they end up going to play that, they're going to need to somehow string together some hits in more than just one inning.
Yeah, I've seen this before. The 2006 team is reminiscent of this Cardinal team where they didn't hit a lot either, and they got in on the last day, and next thing you know, they're holding up the trophy.
Yeah, but that team was hurt all year too.
Yeah, but regardless,
didn't get healthy until the last week. There's nobody there. There's no Scott Roller, Jim Edmonds getting healthy this final week of the year.
You have to hope that somebody finds it. Whether is it Carlson? He had a pretty interesting weekend in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Fowler comes back today.
Maybe Fowler comes back. Brad Miller is who he is. Okay, I don't think Brad Miller is going to get any better. Maybe it's DeYoung swings a better bat. I mean, I just think that somebody's got to start playing better, and maybe it becomes contagious. But you're right. The bad news about the Cardinals, if they get in the postseason, they won't have Pittsburgh to play. So it's going to be something that we're all going to have to kind of keep an eye on and just look to see who's going to contribute.
Well, they do get 3 versus the Royals this week.
And that won't be easy. That won't be easy. They took 2 out of 3 against them last time they were here.
It'll be easy to scoreboard watch because the Brewers and Reds play each other for a 3-game series starting today. And looking at the playoffs, so right now in the American League, the A's, the White Sox, the Rays, the Twins, and the Yankees have all clinched. So 5 of the 8 spots in the American League are all set. To be honest, you know who all 8 are going to be, because the gap between 8 and 9 it's absurd in the American League. The National League's a different story. Right now, only the Dodgers and Padres have clinched. The Cubs, you assume the Cubs are in there. Everything else really is up for grabs.
It really is.
In the National League. So the National League will be the league to watch this week.
Yeah, and what's interesting is on Sunday everybody starts at the same time.
Yeah, I love that they started doing that.
And you start the scoreboard watch, and it kind of depends on how you play your game and what pitchers you use, and it will have an even greater bearing this week because I think we're going to see a bunch of teams play 500 ball this week because they're going to knock each other off.
Yeah. By the way, the American League, just as to the Astros are 27-26, the Blue Jays are 27-26, the Indians are 29-24. Those 3 teams have not clinched a playoff spot yet, but the 9 seed are the Seattle Mariners that are 23-30. They are 7 games below 500, while all the other 3 teams are above 500 with a week left in the season. Meanwhile, the number 9 and 10 seed in the National League are the Brewers and the Giants right now. Both are sitting at 500. While all the other teams that have not clinched are sitting right there around 500. So it'll be fun baseball to watch in the National League.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it'd be good baseball, but it'll be fun.
It'll be fun. Yeah. I mean, hey, you know what? Even if they're throwing the ball around and bad and losing 2-3 in a row, it's still going to be fun to sit there and make you tense up and stress you out, just like every other end of September should be. It's fun to watch it that way and decide if they're going to make it or not. You guys are set. You guys are going to be in the booth at Busch Stadium for the whole playoffs.
I have no idea where we're going to be. I think the first round, certainly, because see, here's the deal. You have to quarantine after this week. I mean, when the Cardinals come back home after this road trip, they're going to be quarantined until the postseason starts. And that also applies for umpires and everybody else. Nobody's asked me to go anywhere but home. So I'm going to assume that we're going to probably lay out the first round, if not the second. Who knows how this thing's going to shake out? Yeah,
and looking at the standings right now too, they could either be in Chicago or in Atlanta, I guess, for that first round. It's hard to handicap where they might be as of right now. I mentioned possibly next Monday we'll be at Among and Ask. If not, the Monday after that, we'll figure it out when we will be at either.
It'll be the Monday after that.
You think so?
Yeah.
We will. We'll figure out when we will be out there. One of our sponsors here of Lunch with Claibs and Joe. I'll have their October deals for you starting next week as the end of the month deals. You mention it every time at the end of the month. That's the best time to get in there and buy the car. As they're trying to hit that number, and that's the best time to go in there and get a new car at the end of the month. And we're in the final 8-9 days here of the month of September. Quickly moving on to hockey. I know the Stanley Cup Finals have gotten underway, but the Blues and the captain, Alex Pietrangelo, they're at a little bit of an impasse right now. We knew that this wasn't going to be a clear deal, figure it out, get it done, and everything was going to be nice and easy. But they've kind of told him to go out and start looking around. They've given him his offer, and they said, go see what else is out there for you, Captain.
Well, it's part of negotiations, and I know some people take it personal with regard to how things are unfolding. But, the Blues established what the floor is going to be, and now it's up to Pietrangelo to find the ceiling and then work from there. I'm sure that offer was not their last and final. And I'm sure Petrangelo will get an offer that will seem interesting. I think the question is, I think the structure will have a lot to do with it. So they'll go out and get an offer and say, hey, this is what such and such is offering. And then it'll be up to the Blues to say, okay, if we do this, would you be willing to do that? And if they say no, then you say, well, good luck. We appreciate your service, and you move on. You have to prepare for him not being here one way or the other. And I think the Blues have to be very smart here in length of contract, because I don't think you want another Alexander Steen on your hands where you rush to judgment on him. He hasn't been as good of a player as he was the day you signed him to the long-term deal, and you can't wait for his contract to go away because of his lack of skill and injury situations. He's just not the guy that you thought you were getting paid. You're paying him for, especially on the back end of these deals. You just can't do it. So the Blues are going to play hockey with or without Alex Pietrangelo. How good will they be? Well, I guess we'll find out. But I think this is just the opening salvo of some maybe interesting negotiations.
When you look at some recent history with the Blues letting players walk away for free agency, David Backes comes to mind.
Brian Elliott, another one.
The fact that they won the Stanley Cup last year and seeing how those past guys that have walked away haven't hurt them as much, how do fans react if Alex Pietrangelo...
Fans always overreact.
Do you think it's different now that the Blues won the Cup and that's still fresh in their minds?
No, they think we can only win with one person. Players come and go. And, I think the Blues want to make sure they're not the Detroit Red Wings or the Chicago Blackhawks where they won and then they eventually paid the price with bad contracts or bad deals that really limited them salary cap wise in order to be able to stay consistent. And then the next thing you know, you finish at the bottom of the heap and you're in the lottery and it takes you 3 to 4 years to recover. You go through a coach or two. That's a real excruciating way to try and remain competitive. So there may be another player or two out there that may pique the interest of the St. Louis Blues as far as somebody to fill the void of losing Alex Pietrangelo. I want to remind everybody, I'm not sure what year Alex Pietrangelo won the Norris Trophy. I'm not sure what year I saw Alex Pietrangelo be an NHL All-Star, all NHL. So he's a good player, okay? I don't think he's ever been the guy that they thought he was going to be as far as being, third in the draft. It took a little bit longer for him to develop. He's a good player, but I think he's a replaceable player. And I think that's how you have to look at it in the event. Sure, would you like to have him? Yeah, but I don't want Alex Pietrangelo at 37, 38 years old being paid an exorbitant amount of money that I really can't afford because we thought it was a good idea to sign him 8 years ago. I just don't think you can do that.
Stars up 1-0 on the Lightning in the Stanley Cup Finals right now. Game 2 is tonight. Who you got in that?
I think Tampa will come back. Tampa's the better team. The Stars are playing well, but I think Tampa's a better team, and there is a rumor that Stamkos may return tonight. And if he comes back, that makes them a completely different team. He gives them something that maybe they didn't have in the first couple of games. So I still like Tampa to win the whole thing.
Hey, we're powered by Ameren, Illinois. Last week we did the show and the lights were flashing here over in Belleville. Come to find out that a car hit a light post, hit something here in town, and it actually at the time had knocked out the power in a lot of the area to where my son's doing the e-learning right now, and they had to cancel classes the whole afternoon. But I got to tell you, Ameren, the power stayed on here at the house here. And everything was back up and running around town for here in Belleville. So thank you to Ameren, Illinois, for getting everything back up and running and making everything as I guess stress-free as possible. And the kid didn't mind having an afternoon off either on a Monday. We move on. Our NFL. God, I don't know how much you were able to watch yesterday. So I watched some week. This is the first year that I've been able to sit down and enjoy the Red Zone channel. Starting at noon, sit down, spend 6 hours just watching the games, jumping all over the place because I don't have a team to cover. I don't have a show to do on Sundays. And yesterday, it seemed like every 5 minutes, another superstar was going down with an injury, and it was a bad injury that you knew at the time was going to be a bad injury, whether it be Bosa from the 49ers, Shaquan Barkley from the Giants, who we find out today has a torn ACL, Christian McCaffrey out for 4 to 6 weeks with an ankle injury, just injuries all over the place yesterday in week 2 of the NFL. And it did look like, for as good as the offenses were around the league in week 1, it did look that now that teams had a little tape, that things started to even out a little more.
Well, I also think we're still in the growth process of being in football shape. I think a lot of these injuries can be attributed to the fact that there has been a lack of contact in the practices. And, the only time these guys may run into each other seriously might be part of a day doing practice and on Sunday. And I think that we're seeing some injuries, and I don't think this is the end of it. I think the only reason why we're talking about these injuries in the manner that we are is because they're now happening to name players who could be in a position where the team season could practically be done. Because the Giants don't have anybody behind Barkley, not to say the Giants were that good. 49ers, if they lose Garoppolo for an extended period of time, their situation is going to be in trouble. Excuse me. Excuse me. And there's some other teams that lost some key guys, and we don't know the extent of their injuries. So it's a problem that you're going to see for quite some time. And that's why I said to you in the beginning, you don't know what you have until the 4th week of the season, because by then you would have had a key injury at some point. By then you would have known who can play and who can't. By then you would have had enough tape on somebody else where you can get into a game prep mode and understanding what this team is able to do at this time of the year. So you have a barometer that you can really go by compared to just saying, well, here we are, it's opening day, here we go. No, you don't know anything. You don't know anything about these teams. And we're learning about coaches too. So another couple of weeks of carnage, and then we'll settle in around the middle of October, and everybody have an understanding of what they actually have to support when it comes to a football team.
The one of the most entertaining games during the day yesterday, that Sunday night game last night, down to the end of it, that's what you would like every Sunday night game to be. But the Cowboys and Falcons game and the comeback that the Cowboys had, that onside kick, Greg Zuerlein, former St. Louis Ram, with one of the most unique onside kicks I've ever seen. He sat the ball on the ground, not on the tee, but sat it on the ground and kind of kicked it. So it was a little sidewinder. Yeah. And somehow it was like, I saw somebody describe it like they were putting at Augusta, to where the ball just made a turn that you didn't see was there. It kind of went down a hill that you didn't see, while the Falcons just stood around and watched it happen.
I've seen that before. I was talking to a friend of mine who coaches special teams, and we got into a discussion about onside kicks. That shows you how bored we were. And I just suggested, I said, what if you just made it look like a whirly bird, where A, you would be fascinated by it because you've never seen it before, and B, just when you think you can reach for it, it's gone. And that's basically what happened. They got caught admiring or watching it to the point where they forgot what they were supposed to do. And I think when they did try to recover, it was too late because it had already kind of curled back in, as you mentioned. Very creative. It's something that's been, I know some other teams that have played with that. Now, you can only get away with it on artificial turf. Grass, you can't get that same play because maybe the turf maybe have come up or something, but you can get away with it on this new turf that they have on the fields now.
As I watched it, and you watch and wonder what the Falcons are thinking at the time, I thought maybe it was a situation where you don't want to touch it because it's moving so much that you're afraid you're not going to get a good grasp on it, that if you touch it, you're going to kick it and boot it somewhere. So it's better to maybe let it stop. And I don't know if they just lost track of where on the field they were, or the Cowboys player, he took the shot because, it was do or die for them.
Here's the other thing that goes into this. A lot of players don't know the rules. And I want to remind you of this. Most guys who are on special teams were never on special teams when they played in college because they would start a team. You can put the starter team on special teams, especially on recovery or being a gunner. All right. You kind of have to learn that on the fly when you get to the pros. And I'm of the belief that much like baseball, there are a lot of guys who don't know the rules.
Donovan
And
McNabb didn't know that games could end in a tie, and he was a quarterback for how many years before that happened?
that's my point. So they only stay in their lane as far as what they are comfortable with. And remember, this is the second game of the season, and I wonder how many of those guys on special teams had ever played it before, and I wonder how many guys on special teams were first-year, maybe second-year players.
By the way, before we wrap up the NFL discussion, did you see Deion Sanders got a head coaching job in college?
I was surprised at that last week, and hopefully we will have him on this week.
Really?
I've known Prime for a long time, and when somebody told me that this was going on, I just kind of said, because we see it in college basketball where we've seen some very good black coaches or former black players that have found their way into the black college realm of things because they don't get the chances that they would at a big school. I think Deion's going to do fine. There's one thing I know about Deion Sanders. All the hype and everything you see in here, that's really not him. Deion is a student. He's a very good teacher. I think he will do an outstanding job at Jackson State. That's my least concern because he will have everyone's attention. He as gifted as he is as a player, he mechanically and fundamentally really understood the game. And I think he'll be able to convey that to kids. And I think he's certainly going to have a leg up on a lot of schools on being able to recruit. And I'm talking about major schools as well. We've seen this happen already in high school or in college basketball where that highly touted, I think is a top 10 player in the country who decided to go to an all-black college at Howard. I think we're going to see more of this. And if you're in the state of Mississippi and you're a good player, I'm not sure why you would listen to Lane Kiffin or Mike Leach when Deion Sanders may have more in common with what you and your mission would want to be.
And if you're wondering why in September a college is hiring a head coach, Jackson State won't be playing until the spring. They have an 8-game schedule starting in the spring. Deion Sanders also just launched a new podcast this week too. He recently signed on with Barstool Sports, and he's doing a show with Jamie Dukes from the Atlanta area.
See, they go way back. They play together with the Falcons.
I've talked to Jamie Dukes before. I knew that. Yeah, I've had him on a couple times, and it wasn't until today that I saw the podcast was released. I had no clue that that Dukes was doing anything with him. I just thought it was going to be prime time all by himself.
Well, they needed a bus driver.
I figured that was the case. Yeah, you need somebody there to host it and get you in and out of everything.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's one I haven't listened to it. Haven't listened to it yet, but I know their first guest was they had Jerry Jones and Roger Goodell on together at the same time. The next time we might see Jerry Jones and Roger Goodell together somewhere might be here in St. Louis.
In court, you're absolutely right.
Speaking of college football, that school starting in the spring. We get SEC football this weekend. It's weird to think and how staggered all this is being. I went again every Friday. I feel like I've gone and I've looked at whatever the schedule is for college football, and the last 3 weeks I've been very disappointed because there's just nothing out there that grabs you. There's nothing out there that gets your attention.
I agree.
This week the top game.
You know what, Miami, Louisville. I watch a little bit of that.
That does nothing for me though. Like that, that's not. I'm not going to get locked into watching that. I was more interested in the Tyron Woodley fight this Saturday night. He lost, but that had more of my interest than anything going on in college football. You get the SEC involved. We're about a month away from the Big Ten. Then late October, November, it'll be fun to watch college football.
Oh, I agree. And, I'm going to caution everybody here again. Don't be surprised to see some kids go down with some serious injuries. I mean, everybody's been practicing, not as much live contact. And I think if it were me, I would have opted out. If I'm a first round pick in the draft, I'm not playing college football because this will probably create the best chance for me to get hurt. And I think we've seen some players do it. But I think they're walking down a dangerous alley right now as far as risking their future just to play college football when I think we're seeing already what it's doing to the NFL.
we've seen players opt back in the Big Ten. So we've seen it kind of go the other way now that they announced that they're playing football in the fall. Mizzou, Alabama this weekend. That's not not good for the Mizzou Tigers and Eli Drinkwitz's first game as the head coach. A lot of Mizzou players, it sounds like, too, are going to miss because of COVID-related issues.
He's going to be in a tough situation. He's going to be shorthanded. I don't know if it's going to make a big difference. I know that Dave Matters tried to give us an idea of what they're going to look like offensively, because for some reason we are fascinated by who the quarterback is and the offense, even though we wouldn't know the offense if we got run over by it. I think you better be thinking about the defense and if nothing else, how are they going to stop an Alabama team that just continues to produce really good players that we've never heard of. Throw in the fact that if your offense is going to be 3 and out all day, then if Nick Saban is a bad guy, and I don't think he is, Nick could probably hang 60 on Missouri. I don't think he want to do that to a first-year coach in a program. I don't think it serves a purpose. So he may call him off early if it comes down to it. Plus, he wants to see what other players he has also in this shortened season.
I had Mark Lillibridge on my show this weekend, and we touched on all different levels of football. And one thing I asked him, and I'll ask you this too. We saw baseball start the season and then announce they were going to expand the playoff from 10 teams to 14 teams. Do you think the NCAA has the people in place who can actually make decisions and make things happen to give us an 8-team playoff this year, given everything?
Yeah, I do. I think it depends on a couple of things. How far do we get with this virus? And remember, you mentioned how baseball dealt with it. What happens if you get a couple of teams that get hit hard? What happens if it really starts to spread and we have some real bad effects where it maybe affects coaches as well? I think that the NCAA better have 2 plans. One, if they can get through it, and 2, how could we expand the postseason and include fans? Because these schools rely a lot on fan participation with regard to ticket sales and concessions. So you have to have that plan in place also.
Which shouldn't be that hard for a postseason, because you think about it, a lot of these postseason games are going to be played in NFL stadiums. And the NFL, some of these schools or some of these teams are already bringing fans in. So they'll already have kind of the system down in place of how to get fans in there safely and how to operate with fans on game day.
But here's where I think we have to take into account. We've had, 1 weekend, 2 weekends of fans going on a limited basis. Let's see how the testing comes back, and let's see if there's a spike in just that gathering itself. Let's see if we have a spike in players who have played against each other and how that works. I think before we start to get too far down the road, we need to examine the data that we have at hand to make sure that the decisions they make down the road will be ones that will be helpful compared to harmful.
By the way, Raiders open their new stadium tonight. How interested are you in seeing what is it? Allegiant Stadium, I think is the name of it.
Yeah. Not much. I mean, I saw it last year. I was in Vegas, and it was impressive for sure. I don't care. I mean, what are they going to do? I mean, it's a stadium. Okay, it's new. It's going to have some cute things that I'll never probably experience. The luxury boxes will be more plush and the seats will be good. But if you look, the seats are always around the field the same way they are in every other stadium. I'm not sure what the next generation of stadiums would look like. We've got the retractable roof thing, and apparently the scoreboard or the above the field scoreboards are important now, but I just don't know what else you can do that's going to make me say, hey, I'm going to turn the game on so I can see the field or see the stadium. They're not going to show you the stadium as much as they're going to show you the game. So who cares?
I feel like Monday Night Football, they'll put a little emphasis on showing kind of the specialized areas of the new stadium. But
what are the specialized areas?
I did notice the Chiefs and Chargers game yesterday that was at SoFi. They didn't really go above and beyond to talk about how great the stadium was like they did last week at Sunday Night Football. I was expecting a second week of just how great SoFi was on the CBS broadcast yesterday.
It's a waste of time for me. I guess I don't really care. I mean, it's a facility that I'm not in. It's a facility that doesn't have anybody else in it. I don't know what the crowd impact would be from a noise standpoint. And I don't know what other amenities it could provide that I don't have in my own home.
The nice thing about the one at the Raiders' new stadium is that Mark Davis can go there knowing that he's not really losing out on much money. He didn't pay for this stadium. He had somebody finance it for him and build it. Meanwhile, Stan Kroenke is the one that's losing out on all the fans coming in to his place. So that makes if that makes you feel any better to know that while watching.
I'm not gonna lose sleep either way.
I've never been to Vegas in the first place, but
okay, I think it'll be something you should take in. It'll be a good experience. Okay, I don't want to poo-poo the whole thing, but it'll be a good experience for people to check out. Much like when Vegas opened up their arena for hockey. It's a new city that's going to embrace it. There's obviously a lot of other things you can do in Las Vegas, but it's another football game on schedule. It's another facility, and I don't know for the common fan how much of an impact it's going to have on them other than the newness. And here's something we need to take into account. When you build a stadium now, do you really need 100,000 seat stadium when everybody is at home watching games now? When you now come to the conclusion that, you know what, I can have more fun at home. I'm seeing replays that you're not. There's never a line to get to my bathroom. My beer is always colder and cheaper. And I'm not stuck on a parking lot for 45 minutes when the game is over with because nobody thought of a good way to get you in and out of a stadium. I don't have some bum trying to. Here's the one thing that bugs me.
We've gone and experienced games it's such a different way though than people. I have this thought too, and I think of it just. How many games have you and I mean, when was the last time you put a jersey on and went to a game?
I've never done it.
Right. And that's where when we walk into Busch Stadium to go cover a Cardinal game in October, we're going in there, dressed nice, whatever, because we're in there for a job where we don't get to go in there and experience it like that. So where I think that we're a bit disconnected from that, I feel.
Yeah, there may be some truth to that, but that's for somebody else to do. I personally, and I'll give you a good example. Last year, I went to the Cowboy-Ram game in Dallas, okay? And, I didn't have on any garb or anything. I sat in a box, and it was fine. And that's probably the only way I would go, and here's why. There's nothing worse than sitting in the stands and having somebody behind you who doesn't know jack shit about what's going on. Then now all of a sudden is the most avid critic or a person who actually thinks he knows what he's taught. It's nothing worse than that person sitting behind you. And I have come to the conclusion. That's why I don't go to Super Bowl parties. I haven't been to a Super Bowl party in 35 years because of the fact that I'm around enough people professionally that I respect. I don't want to sit around somebody who doesn't know anything about what's going on and is going to try and be an expert here. Don't do it. Won't do it. I think the largest Super Bowl gathering I had at one time was a party of 4. And I cooked dinner and we sat there, we watched it. And these people were people who understood the game, and it was a very enjoyable evening. But other than that, I wouldn't sit in a crowd with a bunch of people I don't know. Well, I know I wouldn't do it now. But that's something I wouldn't do, and maybe I'm different.
You see, yeah, I mean, because I am different. I enjoy going and seeing all these new ballparks or going to a game that I haven't been to. Like last year, for example, I saw a game in Citi Field for the first time. I saw a game at Great American Ballpark for the first time, and both times were as a fan, not as media, and I enjoyed the hell out of it.
And that's fine. Yeah, I think people, you know what? There's a place for that. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It's just me talking.
Right.
But I don't begrudge anybody who wants to do that. I just think for me, it's a real pain in the butt, only because I've seen the game from a different angle where I don't think that when I hear people who try and tell me what they know, and I know that they don't know what they're talking about, it gets a little frustrating because the next thing you know, you get into a subtle debate and then you ask yourself the question, why am I wasting my time with this?
Oh yeah, you don't do this. I guess I don't put myself in those situations because I will go and I will buy the cheapest ticket and then I'll walk around the stadium the whole time. I could not. I mean, both those games that I bought tickets to, I have no idea where my seat was supposed to be because I walk
I'd rather
around.
be at home then.
Yeah, I walk around and I take it in because if it's the first time I'm at that ballpark, I want to see every little bit of it, and that's kind of my mindset when I go to games. I don't go there as a fan. Of a team. I go there as kind of a fan of the sport, and I just want to take in the entire event. And I couldn't tell you who won either of the games. Those two games that I went to too. Because I was just there enjoying myself, and I didn't care what the outcome was. I just did not matter to me at all in situations. As we wrap things up here, NBA final or conference finals, Eastern Conference, Western Conference finals going on. Lakers up 2-0 on Denver. Anthony Davis hits the game winner last night. The Boston Celtics finally decided to show up and get a win this weekend. That was the biggest margin of defeats in game 3 of that series, but the Heat up 2-1. They get the night off tonight because of Monday Night Football, but back at it again tomorrow with Heat and Celtics game.
No, that's Wednesday. They play Wednesday.
Is it Lakers Denver tomorrow then?
Yeah.
Okay. I knew one of the series was off or both the series were off tonight. Who you got in those?
Lakers and Heat. I don't know if Denver will get swept, but they're going to lose. And I know Gordon Hayward's back to help the Celtics, but I think that the Celtics, as much talent as they have, I don't think that. I think Miami's probably better coached and probably has a better concept of how to guard. So I'm going to take them. Plus, when the Lakers win the championship, the Celtics can no longer say they own more championships than anybody because they'll be tied.
I do. I think the Lakers sweep. I think Boston comes back. I think that's going to be that series might go 7 though there, but I see the Celtics getting their act together and coming out on top of the Heat.
So you're saying Lakers Celtics finals?
Yes.
Okay, I can live with that.
Yeah.
I can live with that.
I'd be locked in for that, and I bet the TV networks would be a big fan of that.
I would agree with you.
You have you said you're going to try to get Deion Sanders on this week. Anybody else
working on it? With this baseball going on, it's really kind of hard to corral somebody. So I would just suggest that we'll put out a flyer and let people know when and where on who we're going to have coming up. But to overly commit right now wouldn't be fair. So we're efforting, as we like to say.
Absolutely. Mizzou starts this weekend, Saturday, as we mentioned, Mizzou and Alabama. So we'll have plenty to talk about next week with that, as you have been watching Lunch with Claibs and Joe here on our Facebook and Twitter pages. Also, we have the link up on YouTube here for claibsonline.com, powered by Ameren, Illinois, driven by Mungenast St. Louis Acura, Mungenast Alton Toyota, and also sponsored by Ryan Kelly, the home loan expert. Find him online at thehomeloanexpert.com. Great interest rates right now, Claibs.
Oh, yeah. They're below 2. And the climb for the cause is this week as well. For Ryan, we'll be talking some more about that during the course of the week also. So some great things going on with the home loan expert, Ryan Kelly. So give him a call or go online and check it out. It's easier than you think.
Have fun at the ball game tonight. The Cardinals are in Kansas City for 3 games. If you missed it earlier on in the show, Dexter Fowler announced on Instagram that he is driving to Kansas City to meet up with the team there. So Dexter Fowler, expect him in the lineup. He might be taking the roster spot of Dakota Hudson I
don't think we'll see Hudson pitch again this year.
Yeah,
from what I've been told. So he gets a roster spot, and we got to figure out who's going to start tomorrow. Cardinals haven't announced who the start is going to be.
They announced it yesterday post game. It's Austin Gomber.
Okay, well that's a good call. Good call.
Yeah. So it's is it Wainwright tonight?
Wainwright tonight, Gomber tomorrow, and Carlos Martinez on Wednesday.
On Wednesday, and then figure out what to do with those 5 games against the Brewers Thursday through Sunday. KK, will get one of those starts. Flaherty will, and I'm guessing Wainwright. I mean,
maybe Waino on Sunday.
I would think so. So you're throwing your three best horses out there for the 5-game series. Claibs, have a great rest of the day. We'll talk.
All right, Joe. We'll talk to you soon.
That is Mike Claiborne. I'm Joe Roderick. You have been watching Lunch with Claibs and Joe here on ClaibsOnline.com.